Declarative Onboarding and Application Services Free by James Priest. First of all, we download and install Postman. We install Docker on the Linux server. We add your name to the Docker so that you can run it without having to sudo every time. But first of all, we're going to install Docker and the Hello World script. Okay, so that worked. Now we're going to install the F5 Declarative Onboarding Docker container. And also pull the AS3 Docker container. Now we're going to run Declarative Onboarding and also run AS3. So these run in their own separate containers within Docker on the Linux installation. By running Docker container ls, you can see that the application has started and is running. And now you can see that both AS3 and Declarative Onboarding are running in their own containers on this Ubuntu installation. So we're good to go. So to test our Declarative Onboarding is up and running, we send a get command to the address seen on the screen, and we post this to the F5 IP address with management shared Declarative Onboarding example. And from what you can see below is the example you're sent back from the Docker installation running on the Ubuntu machine. This hasn't actually touched the F5 unit as of yet. So it just sends you back an example schema file back just to prove it's up and running. Okay, so here on the F5 device, you see that currently it has just a management IP address that allows us to SSH into, and no license is seen. Going into the big IP underscore base config, very, very basic configuration. Seeing there's a standard host name that we'll be able to change. Also DNS, we should be able to change for using Declarative Onboarding. Okay, so just log into the GUI on the F5 that we've set up in our virtual environment. Just to prove again, there's no license on this box. The host name and everything is just sat there blank. Nothing has been configured at this stage. So use an example from the cloud.f5 docs. We're able to send a sample Declarative Onboarding statement using JSON within the Postman client, and we're going to send over our license and various configuration points to set up our F5 box. This time we're going to use the method post, and we're sending it to the IP address of management of the IP of the Declarative Onboarding. But if you look in the configuration, we send it to the host, which is 62 in this case, which is our big IP or LTM instance. So this is posted to the Docker installation of Declarative Onboarding, and from the configuration within JSON, it's sent to the IP address of the F5. So log into the GUI and see if our changes have been posted across successfully. As you'll see, the header is changed at the top here. We'll have a look under System. And then under License, we can see the unit is now licensed. If we have a look under Network and Interfaces, we've got the three interfaces configured there. Default route, self IPs, internal and external. Right. So moving on to Application Services 3, this is similar to Declarative onboarding, but this does the share configuration, virtual servers, pools, nodes, monitors, etc., etc. So to test this is working within Docker. We send a get to the address above, and we get a version and schema release comeback just to prove that it is working. So this is postman to the Ubuntu Linux machine. Right, so that was an example of some JSON that we can send to the F5 via the Docker, and this will set up virtual servers, pool members, IP addresses, etc. So what we need to make sure is for the target is the IP address of the F5 machine, that we have a password in there, username password, to access the box. We can set up or the other thing we have to remember is that we can only send AS3 to a partition name. We can't send it to the default partition. Okay, so we run this and send it to the F5 via the post, and then we check it in the GUI now just to make sure this is set up. So as I said, it's not going to be in the common partition. So we swap to the partition that we created. Partition name was James in this case. A virtual server which we created. You see the properties here. Various resources that we assigned.